Walk down any supermarket chiller and you'll see them. £4 ready meals promising a proper dinner in 8 minutes flat. Your nan would have laughed. She fed a family of 6 on what most of us scrape into the bin without a second thought. Stale bread, cold potatoes, a stripped chicken carcass, the fat left in the roasting tin. Nothing escaped her kitchen. These 25 leftover tricks turned scraps into feasts. And once you see what they actually cost, that microwave lasagna starts to look like daylight robbery. Hit subscribe and let's count them down. Number 25. Bubble and squeak, the oldest trick in the British book and still one of the best. Monday morning, your nan gathered every cold vegetable from Sunday's roast, mashed potato, boiled cabbage, a stray carrot or two, pressed them into a hot pan, slicked with dripping, and fried them until the underside turned dark and crisp. The name came from the sound, the veg hissing and squeaking as it hit the fat. Total cost? Nothing. It was already paid for on Sunday. Yet a supermarket vegetable roasty bake will set you back the best part of £3 for 2 soggy portions. Bubble and squeak fed the whole table, crackled at the edges, and used up what would otherwise rot in the larder. Serve it with a fried egg on top, and you've got a dinner most cafes now charge £7 for. Number 24. Mash into potato cakes. A bowl of leftover mashed potato was never left over for long. Your nan mixed it with a spoonful of flour, a pinch of salt, sometimes a handful of grated cheese or a chopped spring onion, then shaped the lot into flat rounds and fried them golden in a dry pan. 2 minutes aside. They came out crisp on the outside, fluffy within, and cost her nothing beyond the flour, which worked out at a fraction of a penny each. Children who'd turned their noses up at plain mash the night before would fight over these. Compare that to the frozen potato cakes in the freezer aisle, £4 for a box of 8, pumped full of stabilizers. Your nan's version was better, cheaper, and made from something you'd already cooked once. Number 23. Reviving stale bread. Nobody threw bread away. When a loaf went hard by Thursday, your nan ran the whole thing briefly under the cold tap, then put it in a hot oven for 10 minutes. The water turned to steam inside the crust. The crumbs softened, and it came out tasting almost fresh from the baker's. A loaf cost around £1 in the 50s, far too dear to waste on a hunch it had gone stale. This one trick meant a family never binned a heel of bread again. Today we chuck out an eye-watering amount of bread every year, and then buy garlic baguettes for £2 a go. A splash of water and 10 minutes of heat would have saved the lot. Number 22. The dripping jar. On the warming plate of every kitchen sat a jar of beef or bacon dripping, strained through muslin from the Sunday roast. That golden fat was liquid gold. It fried the morning bread, roasted the week's potatoes, and enriched every gravy. Spread thin on toast with a shake of salt, it was a supper in itself. A joint gave up half a jar of the stuff, and it kept for weeks without a fridge. We now pour that fat down the sink and then buy bottles of premium roasting oil for £4. Your nan understood the fat was the best part of the joint, already paid for, sitting there for the taking. A ready meal roast dinner can't come close to the flavour a spoonful of proper dripping brings. Number 21. Fried bread in bacon fat. After the bacon came out of the pan on a Saturday, your nan never wiped it clean. She dropped a slice of yesterday's bread straight into the hot fat and fried it until the edges went crisp and lacy and the middle soaked up all that smoky flavour. It cost nothing but a slice of bread you'd otherwise have wasted, and it turned the ends of a loaf into the best part of breakfast. Nobody needed a recipe. There was no clever branding, no packet. Just a hot pan, a bit of fat that would otherwise have been scrubbed away, and bread that was on its last legs. Try finding that satisfaction in a £4 full English ready meal that comes out grey and steaming from the microwave. Number 20. Crusts into breadcrumbs. The heels of the loaf, the bits nobody wanted, never hit the bin. Your nan let them dry out on the windowsill, then crushed them with a rolling pin or grated them into fine crumbs and kept them in a jar. Those crumbs coated fish, topped a macaroni cheese, bound a rissole, and stuffed the Sunday chicken. A jar of shop-bought breadcrumbs now costs well over £1 for something you were about to throw away. This was the quiet genius of the old kitchen. The least loved part of the loaf became the ingredient that made half a dozen other meals possible. Nothing bought, nothing wasted, and a golden crunch on top of any dish that needed lifting. Number 19. Rissoles from the Sunday roast. By Tuesday, the last of the roast beef or lamb was too little to serve as meat, but far too precious to bin. Your nan minced it fine, mixed it with mashed potato, a beaten egg, and a shake of salt and pepper, shaped it into patties, rolled them in those saved breadcrumbs, and fried them crisp. A scrap of meat that would have fed nobody now fed everyone. This was the whole philosophy in one dish. Take the tail end of an expensive joint and stretch it across another meal entirely. A supermarket does the same thing and calls it a beef grill, charging you £4 for reconstituted mince. Your nan did it with leftovers and a frying pan, and hers actually tasted of the Sunday roast. Number 18. The carcass stock pot. First pattern break. Here's where the real money was. The moment the Sunday chicken was stripped, most of us bag up the bones and bin them. Your nan dropped that carcass straight into a big pot with an onion, a carrot, the celery tops, a bay leaf, and covered it with water. 2 hours of gentle simmering later, she had a litre of golden stock that cost her precisely nothing. That stock became soup, gravy, the base of a risotto, the liquid for a stew. Here's the part the supermarkets bank on you never realizing. Those little pots of fresh chicken stock they sell you for around £3 are made from exactly the bones you're throwing in the bin. You're paying a premium for your own rubbish. Your nan turned the same bones into the foundation of 3 more dinners. Number 17. Vegetable peelings for stock. It wasn't just bones. Your nan kept a bag in the cold larder and fed it all week with onion skins, carrot ends, leek tops, the woody bit of the celery, mushroom stalks. When it was full, she boiled the lot down into a rich vegetable stock, strained it, and used it wherever water would have been dull. Peelings most of us treat as waste built the flavor of the week's soups and gravies. The cost was zero because it was all destined for the compost anyway. A stock cube seems cheap until you realize your nan was making something better for free out of what she'd already bought. That is the difference between a kitchen that runs on thrift and one that runs on the bin. Number 16. Cheese rinds in soup. The hard, dry rind at the end of a block of cheese was never cut off and thrown away. Your nan dropped it whole into a simmering pot of vegetable or lentil soup, where it slowly melted at the edges and released a deep, savory richness into the broth. Fish out what's left before serving, and you've turned a scrap into a seasoning that no shop-bought soup could match. A tin of rich and creamy soup costs well over £1 and tastes of the tin. Your nan's soup cost pennies, thickened by peelings and flavoured by a rind she'd otherwise have binned. Italian grandmothers did the same with parmesan. British ones did it with a hard nub of cheddar. The principle was identical. No part of the cheese was wasted. Number 15. Sour milk into soda bread. When the milk turned in the days before everyone had a decent fridge, your nan didn't pour it away. Slightly soured milk was the perfect raising liquid for soda bread and scones, the acid reacting with bicarbonate of soda to give a light, tender crumb. A pint of milk that most of us would tip down the plug hole became a warm loaf on the table within the hour. It cost nothing because the milk was already bought and about to be wasted. This is the sort of knowledge that vanished the moment fridges got cold enough to keep milk fresh for a fortnight. We gained convenience and lost the instinct that a spoiled ingredient was often exactly what another recipe needed. Number 14. Bread and butter pudding. The grandest thing your nan ever made from rubbish. Stale bread, buttered and layered in a dish with a handful of currants, then drowned in a custard of eggs, milk and sugar, and baked until the top turned golden and crisp, and the middle went soft as silk. A pudding fit for a Sunday, conjured from the crusts nobody wanted. The bread was already stale, the currants a few pennies, and the result silenced a whole table. A supermarket sells you the same thing, cold in a plastic tray, for £3.50. Your nan's cost the price of 2 eggs and a splash of milk, and it came out of the oven steaming, scented with nutmeg. proof that the cheapest ingredients in the house could still taste like a treat. Number 13. Overripe fruit rescued. Black bananas, bruised apples, a punnet of soft berries on the turn. None of it hit the bin. Your nan mashed the bananas into a moist loaf cake, stewed the apples down for a crumble, simmered the berries into a jam that stretched across a fortnight of toast. Fruit at its ugliest is fruit at its sweetest, and she knew the brown banana made a better cake than the yellow one ever could. We bin a mountain of fruit the moment it looks less than perfect, then buy a banana loaf from the cafe for £3 a slice. Your nan turned 3 blackened bananas she got reduced to pennies into a cake that fed the family for days. The uglier the fruit, the better the bake. Number 12. Cottage pie from Sunday's bones. Second pattern break. Here's the one that exposes the whole racket. Take the last of the roast, mince it, brown it with an onion and a splash of that saved stock, spread the week's leftover mash on top, fork it rough so the peaks crisp, and bake. One Sunday joint has now produced a second full dinner for the whole family, and it cost nothing beyond an onion. Now walk to the chiller and look at the cottage pie for one. £4.20 for a tray of watery mince under a thin skim of potato. You are paying more for one microwave portion than your nan spent feeding 6. The ready meal isn't convenience. It's the exact dish your nan made from scraps, shrunk down, wrapped in plastic, and sold back to you at a scandalous markup. Number 11. Curry from cold meat. Come Wednesday, the last shreds of the roast were transformed beyond all recognition. Your nan fried an onion, stirred in a spoon of curry powder from the tin that lasted a year, added a chopped apple or a handful of sultanas for sweetness, splashed in stock, and let the cold meat warm through in the sauce. Served over rice, it tasted like a different meal entirely. The meat was already cooked and paid for. The curry powder cost a few pennies a portion. A supermarket chicken curry ready meal is nearly £4 and gives you a fistful of rubbery cubes. Your nan stretched the very last of the Sunday bird into a spiced supper that had the whole street smelling of it, all built on a scrap most of us would have thrown out. Number 10. Stale cake into trifle. A sponge that had gone dry and past its best wasn't a failure. It was the bottom layer of a trifle. Your nan broke it into the dish, soaked it in a little fruit juice or sherry, spread over some jam and tinned fruit, poured on custard, and topped it with whipped evaporated milk. The dry cake soaked up every drop and turned soft and rich again. A pudding that looked like a triumph, built on a cake nobody would otherwise have eaten. The whole thing cost pennies and served the family for 2 days. A shop trifle in a plastic pot now runs to £3 for a portion the size of a teacup. Your nans fed everyone and disguised the fact that the star ingredient was yesterday's failed bake. Number 9. Leftover porridge into bread. The pan of porridge nobody finished at breakfast didn't go down the drain. Your nan stirred the cold, thick leftovers straight into a bread dough, where the oats added moisture and a lovely chew and kept the loaf soft for days. A few spoonfuls of congealed porridge, which most of us scrape into the bin, became the secret to a better loaf. It cost nothing because it was already made and already paid for. This was the mindset in miniature. Even a half-eaten breakfast had a second job to do before the day was out. Nothing was ever simply finished with. The porridge fed you once as breakfast and again as the bread in your evening sandwich, all from a pan you'd have rinsed clean without a thought. Number 8. Empty jars into dressings. When the jam jar looked empty, it wasn't. Your nan added a splash of vinegar and a drop of oil, screwed the lid back on, and shook it hard. The last clinging fruit turned into a sweet salad dressing. The same with the dregs of a mustard jar, the final scrapings of the marmalade, the bottom of the honey. Nothing that had been paid for was allowed to be thrown away with the packaging. A bottle of shop salad dressing costs the best part of £2. Your nan made hers from what was stuck to the sides of a jar she was about to recycle. It's such a small thing, but multiply it across a lifetime of jars, and you understand how she ran a kitchen on a quarter of what we spend today. Number 7. The everything soup. Friday was soup day, and Friday's soup was the week's ledger made edible. Every leftover vegetable, the last of the mash, a rind of cheese, a cup of that free stock, the odd spoonful of cold peas, all of it went into one pot, simmered soft, and often blitzed smooth so nobody could tell what it had once been. A meal made entirely of remnants, seasoned by peelings, thickened by mash, costing nothing at all. Children who'd have refused the individual scraps happily ate them once they'd melted into a warming bowl of soup. A carton of fresh soup now costs over £3. Your nan's cost nothing but the gas to heat it, cleared the larder of every straggler, and meant the week ended with an empty fridge and a full table. Number 6. Leftover rice, fried and reborn. Third pattern break. A bowl of cold rice from last night's dinner became tonight's main event. Your nan heated a little dripping in a pan, threw in the rice, cracked an egg over it, added whatever cold veg and scraps of meat were hanging about, and fried the whole lot hot and fast until it caught and crisped. A dish born entirely of leftovers, ready in 5 minutes, feeding everyone for the cost of a single egg. Here's the quiet warning though, never let cooked rice sit warm for hours. Your nan always cooled it fast and kept it cold and reheated it screaming hot. She did it by instinct. A special fried rice-ready meal costs £4 and gives you less than she'd make from a bowl of rice you were about to scrape into the caddy. Number 5. Gravy that never died. The last of Sunday's gravy was never poured away. Your nan kept it in a covered bowl in the cold larder, and it became the secret weapon of the week. A spoonful to enrich a stew, a splash to loosen a pie filling, the base of the next day's onion gravy. That concentrated meaty liquid was too valuable to lose down the sink. It cost nothing and lifted every dish it touched. We now buy gravy granules by the tub and pour good gravy away without a thought. Your nan understood that the gravy was the roast's flavor-made liquid, and that a spoonful of it turned a plain plate of leftovers into something that tasted once again like a proper Sunday dinner. Nothing carried more flavor for less money. Number 4. Pastry scraps into jam tarts. Whenever your nan rolled out pastry for a pie, the trimmings never went in the bin. She gathered the offcuts, pressed them into a bun tin, dropped a teaspoon of jam into each, and baked them alongside the pie. Waste pastry that would have been binned became a plate of jam tarts for the children's tea, cooked in the same oven, using the same heat that was already paid for. A box of jam tarts costs well over £1 at the shop. Your nans were free, made from the scraps of another bake, warm from the oven, and gone within the hour. It's the perfect example of her thinking. Even the ragged edges of a pastry had a pudding hidden inside them, if you couldn't bear to waste a thing. Number 3. The chicken carcass soup. We touched the stock pot earlier, but the finished soup deserves its own place, because this was the meal that fed a family for pennies. From that simmered carcass, your nan lifted every last shred of meat clinging to the bones, and there was always more than you'd think, dropped it back into the strained stock with a handful of barley, some diced carrot, and the last of the week's veg, and let it thicken into a soup dense enough to stand a spoon in. One bird, already eaten once as a roast, now fed the whole family a second full dinner. A supermarket chicken soup costs £3 a carton and barely counts as a meal. Your nan's cost nothing, warmed the coldest night, and wrung the very last penny of value out of a chicken most of us bin half-finished. Number 2. Fat for the roast potatoes. The finest roast potatoes in Britain were never cooked in oil from a bottle. Your nan saved the fat from every roast, every rasher of bacon, every joint, and it was in that saved dripping, smoking hot in the tin, that she roasted her potatoes until they were glass crisp outside and fluffy within. The fat was free, skimmed and stored from meals already cooked, and it made a potato no bottle of vegetable oil could ever match. We now pour that fat away and buy jars of goose fat for £4 to chase the same result. Your nan had it for nothing, sitting in a jar on the side, the accumulated richness of the week's cooking, waiting to turn a bag of cheap spuds into the best part of Sunday dinner. Number 1. One roast chicken. A whole week of dinners. And here, at number 1, is the trick that ties every other one together. The reason a £4 ready meal really is a scam. Your nan bought a single chicken and made it last. Sunday, it was the roast. Monday, the cold meat went into sandwiches and a curry. Tuesday, the scraps became rissoles or a pie. Wednesday, the carcass gave up its stock, and that stock became Thursday's soup, thick with the last shreds of meat and a handful of barley. One bird, bought once, feeding a family of 6 across the better part of a week. Work out the cost per meal and it collapses to pennies. Now stand in the supermarket and add up 7 days of ready meals for one person. You'd spend more feeding yourself than your nan spent feeding a household. She wasn't poor in her cooking. She was richer than any of us because she wasted nothing, and everything she touched fed someone twice. So there they are, 25 tricks that turned scraps into suppers and made the bin the last resort, not the first. Try just one this week. Save the carcass, keep the dripping, revive the stale loaf. Then come back and tell me in the comments which one your nan swore by, because the truth is she was never making do. She was running the smartest kitchen in Britain, and now so can you.